take some time just to be thankful that I had days full of you, before it winds down into the memories. It's all just memories. Don't you love when I come around? Fill you up, then I take you down. Don't you love when I come around? Fill you up, then I take butterfly like a true. Oh yeah, baby. Butterfly like a true. This feels like summer, boy, you make me feel so alive. Just be my lover, boy, you lead me to paradise. Those eyes, every time I look into your eyes, I see it. You're all I need. Every time I get a bit inside, I feel it. Butterfly like a true. Oh yeah, baby. Butterfly like a true. And I'll take some time just to be thankful that I had days full of you, before it winds down into the memories. It's all just memories. Don't you love when I come around? Fill you up, then I take you down. Don't you love when I come around? Fill you up, then I take butterfly like a true. Oh yeah, baby. Butterfly like a true. This feels like summer, boy, you make me feel so alive. Just be my lover, boy, you lead me to paradise.
And we are live with another one. Hi, all you BC WrestlePod nerds out there, and welcome to another rendition of the Grapple Gurus Review, your BC WrestlePod PPV and PLE review show. I am one of your hosts, Mikey, and joining me this lovely evening, first and foremost, you can find him all over the Dynamite reviews and the ROH reviews, but we have Mr. John Van Vicious himself in the building, JVL. Thank you for being here tonight. This should be an interesting one.
Where would I be?
I don't know, doing something better.
I mean, suggest things. We'll see how that goes.
We'll revisit that question by the end of this review. And rounding out our panel tonight, you can find him on the ROH and the TNA. And if you just saw us yesterday, our new GCW correspondent.
Spectacular, by the way. That was ridiculously amazing.
Oh, it went over so well. We'll talk afterwards, but we're definitely covering GCW Homecoming in August now, so that's gonna be fun. But Mr. A to Z himself, Andrew, is here. Also, thank you for being here today, Andrew. Much appreciated.
You're muted.
We love.
I
when
didn't
that
know I had
happens.
a choice though.
Honestly, like I was like 5 seconds to be like, hey guys, don't worry about coming on. I'll take care of this by myself. We're gonna be good. Unfortunately, Jesse is unavailable to make it this evening. He had other prior engagements. So much blessings and love sent out to Jesse. And yeah, so you might be wondering yourself, what are we here to review? Well, I'm glad you asked.
That's what we asked before this even went up when we watched it, because we had no idea what we were reviewing at that point.
That is very, very fair as well. But tonight we are going to be reviewing Ring of Honor's latest pay-per-view, Death Before Dishonor, that took place Friday, July 26, 2024, coming all the way from Arlington, Texas. So, I'm just gonna do this now because, like, I'm just putting it out there.
Just throw it out there.
So I'm not gonna read the whole thing. This is more so for the hosts because as I told JVL this earlier today, I'm playing the role of moderator because I don't want my opinions to cause any discourse during this review. But I'll chime in here once in a while. But today I'm just moderating, and I'm gonna let Andrew and JVL do most of the talking and only chime in. So,
which is funny because if you had been there on the live stream with us, or like watching along with us, you could have heard all of this anyways because we had this all out on Friday.
Yeah. So, Mikey is going to be just leading today. So there we go. Ooh, now we're just floating boxes. Oh no! Put us back. Put us back. There we go. I was like, I know, right? It's crazy. Well, speaking of grounded, as I mentioned before, we're going to be covering Death Before Dishonor, and we are probably going to be grounding some folks as we discuss this. So should be interesting. You know what? Despite of how this goes, I would like to say I am proud of the slideshow that I put together. Do you know it? Just like AEW pay-per-views, I have to go to 5 different sources to make sure I get these cards looking right. ROH needs to put everything on their singular website. I'm just putting it out there, anyways.
They will soon now. Rebranded and reset together. Who knows?
We'll talk about that at the end of it because, yeah, Tony Khan made some interesting comments during the scrum for this. But let us get into it. We are going to first begin this evening with 0 Hour. So technically, we only had 2 matches announced for 0 Hour, but we ended up getting 4. So we're just going to really only focus on the 2 that were announced and briefly go over the other 2.
I'm going to say, like, we knew this was going to happen. This is just ROH in a nutshell, where you get like 17 matches announced day of are going to be on 0 Hour.
That is pretty much accurate. So let's talk about the most important thing that happened on 0 Hour. We got the debut of MXM Collection.
It was nice for them to let us borrow an AEW tag team for a night.
Thank you for saying it. Thank you for saying it. It was nice to get them their early win in their career before they go up to AEW and job out for the next month.
I mean,
Yeah.
You're not wrong. I will say, though, their match against FTR was actually very entertaining. I wish they did one, but I have to give the FTR boys credit because they actually leaned into the gimmick a lot, which was nice because, FTR tends to take themselves super seriously, but their match on Collision was probably the best thing that happened on Collision, not gonna lie. But we had the debut of MXM Collection. They took on the team of Spanish Announce Project, so Serpentico and Angelico. This was a fun match, I thought. Obviously, this was to serve the purposes to get over MXM Collection with the crowd, which wasn't hard, to be honest, to do so.
No, the pop they got when they came out was ridiculous. Like, people have been... They have such a following online anyways for their story coming out of the other Fed. I was happy to see them leaning into that and having the warm reaction. Plus Serpentico just selling his ass off. I mean, there's always...
My gosh. This was the most important match. Anyways, Andrew, what do you have to say about the debut of MXM Collection?
I mean, it was cool. It was fun. I Yeah, I've talked about it a lot already. I think, there are better places they could have been used, better served. But as far as what we did get, I thought they did great. I thought the audience loved them. I think SAP is a great team to tag with just about anybody. They're both solid workers and have very unique talents that can really highlight their opponents. So it was the match that I expected to get when I saw who was wrestling each other, and that was a really good, fun match. So I mean, that's really all I can say about it.
Basically every team wants to come in to fight SAP on their first night because they not only, as you said, are very technically sound and can help out that way, they are not afraid to get goofy and to play around with that too. So it's whatever you're bringing in for your gimmick, they're going to make it look spectacular. So well played on this one. And yes, Mansoor made me sore.
The fact that they took their gimmick from the other Fed and just kept running with it and made it their own is fantastic. And I love having them in here, and shout out to Alice, who says this is her favorite tag team ever now within the ROH AEW universe. And I'm like, which is good because
good AEW tag team for her to watch now.
Yeah.
I mean, if they bounce back between ROH and AEW, I'm cool with that. Give me comedic wrestling. Like, I feel like that's what we're missing sometimes.
Yeah.
So MXM Collection wins their debut. Fast forward, they call out FTR before the main card starts, which I already said the match happened on Collision this past Saturday. Though MXN Collection lost, they put up a hell of a fight. FTR helped get them over by leaning into the gimmicks and then also doing just the tip at the end by touching fingers with MXN Collection. It was ridiculous and goofy. I loved it. So the next two matches I don't have cards for.
I was gonna say what you missed on the live stream was the moment they called out FTR, Andrew's audible sigh from the other side. Just we saw it. He knew it. He knew this was coming, and he just couldn't get invested enough as he was clobbering us in the rankings that night. But still, it was just like
I'm sorry, I came out on top with that one. So I don't know what you're.
Clobbered the rest of us. Jesse and I did not do well.
Just by the tip, though, Mikey.
Just by the tip. Just the tip. I love MXM Collection. I'm happy to have them here. They're going to be a lot of fun to be around. I want them to fight Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe next, just because of the ridiculousness that's going to happen. We'll see what happens with all of that. I don't have cards for the next one because, we didn't know this was going to happen. So we're just going to briefly talk about this. After our tag team match with MXM Collection, we then got a squash match with Marina Shafir taking on Angelica Risk. This match did not last long. Marina Shafir wins. I mean, there's nothing more to say, right?
Put on the mother's milk in a different way than she has before.
Yes, which was
we're all amazed by that.
Which was interesting to see, for sure.
It was what we would get on Ring Honor Club. That was basically, and we had quite a bit of that in this whole evening. So,
yeah. Again, when you don't build up storyline or book things to going forward, you're just going to book the matches you would put on every week TV. Again, the hope is going forward now that they're going to be in one place and doing a TNA NXT style tape, a bunch of episodes. Maybe we might get some continuity. We won't have any championships on the damn thing, except for probably the Pure Championship, but that's about it. But at least we might have some continuity for once.
We shall see, because they did 4 or 5 hour tapings on Sunday, Saturday, whatever that was. They had 2 sessions in one day, and each taping ran for 4 hours. So hopefully that will help a lot of things.
That covers.
I will break
pay-per-view.
I mean, honestly, it can't. Well, I don't know, because the next pay-per-view is probably not until December, which is Final Battle. So we got a long ways to go unless, Ring of Honor wants to do another pay-per-view until then, but who knows? By the way, I will be breaking some news at the end of this review because we got a return in ROH of somebody new. So that's going to be interesting.
A return of somebody new.
Yes. So somebody from AEW made their debut in ROH that we haven't seen on television in quite some time.
I know what you're talking about.
I will talk about that at the end of this.
Who had trunks too tight that he shouldn't have been able to pull off the moves he was doing. Yes, I remember this.
Jeff Jarrett? No.
Yes, it was Jeff Jarrett.
No, absolutely not Jeff Jarrett. But anyways, so we leave Marina Shafir squashing Angelica Ricks into another thrown together tag team match. We had our boys, the Infantry, taking on Griff Garrison and Anthony Henry with a returning Maria Kanellis accompanying them. Thank goodness Maria's okay. We were worried about her going with all the things that she was dealing health-wise, so it was nice to see her make a return. And of course, because Griff Garrison and Anthony Henry's tag team partners are out on injury, ROH is like, hey, let's throw these guys together and see what match we kind of got.
Aren't we lucky we got the two sides of the tag teams that fit each other, which is, you know, the non-charismatic guy who can do a lot of work and Griff Garrison.
Poor boys. Like, you know, this was a match that happened. I love the infantry. I just, you know, I'm going to let Andrew speak on this because he said it perfectly during our live stream when we watched Death Before Dishonor about tag teams. So, Andrew, I'm going to let you go first. How do we feel about infantry taking on the workhorse boys or whatever we want to call them?
I mean, the most exciting thing about this match was the infantry's gear.
Yes.
You know, decked out in that X-Men inspired gear. And then obviously seeing Maria come back and get to see her, like, you know, kind of actually there again. The biggest frustration I have out of this is we have so many tag teams in Ring of Honor. We could have put them on here, and yes, it probably would have been a match that we've seen before. But this, I mean, it was not inspiring me for the rest of the night. Just seeing what we were starting to get kind of thrown together.
And knowing what tag team match or like triple threat match was coming up later in the night, like you could have used the infantry in so many better spots. I think all of us were agreed upon the fact that they were wasted in this match all over the place.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought the match was fun, but again, we have so many tag teams that we could have done something with it, but, you know, they didn't.
Where were the Righteous? Where were the, you know, Iron Savages? Where were half of the teams in ROH they were building up?
I don't know. It was kind of wild that we didn't even get to see any of them, but the infantry pull out the victory here. And then, you know, we got a continuation shot because as the infantry are going up the ramp, we have, you know, jumping right into the next match with entrance music because Top Flight makes their entrance. And then so do the Outrunners, and we get our final match of 0 Hour. We have the Outrunners taking on Top Flight. You could tell by the reactions of my co-hosts that they thought this match was amazing. Just kidding. I feel them on this one. Again, same problem as the previous match with this one. Why were they not on the main card? I don't know. Anyways, JBL, I'm going to come to you first.
Again, nice of AEW to lend us another tag team for our division down here to sweep through in a, you know, an ROH one, and worry that, you know, the Martin brothers are going to get injured for no good reason because that's why they won't book them to win a title anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we had two more tag teams here. We could have just taken the infantry, put them in a match with these two tag teams, make it a triple threat match. Hell, make it a number one contenders tag team match for the ROH tag team titles. You could do so many more interesting things with this. And again, like the Outrunners came out, you know, they had Erica Lee with them. They got a huge pop. You know, they just had an appearance with Dalton Castle prior to his injury. They're so over. Even when they were doing heel antics, they were so over. And it just feels like, once again, it's like one of those situations where a company has a team that is popular and they're just not using people correctly and not booking them right. It's such a bummer.
I still feel that ROH could benefit because it's not been used yet in the best possible way, but in the next Honor Club or something else, do a tag team gauntlet match and just have all your teams run through. You can showcase who you've got on the roster so that all of us know they're still there, and then figure it out from there. Maybe they get a tag title shot against the Kingdom at that point. Something good like that.
I will say there was some funny bits in this match, like Top Flight making the Outrunners hit the, you know, schmexy pose is the best way I can without us getting in trouble with, you know, content, which I thought was funny. But again, I had a good time. It's just that why couldn't we do something like this or even have some stakes involved with these tag teams on the main card? But, you know, Top Flight win. Cool. which is weird because then they would proceed to lose on Collision by Darius getting pinned in that triple threat tag team.
It's not surprising. It's not at all. I come back to this for everything on here. If you're joining us here to listen to this, when we watch the ROH pay-per-views, the work rate and the stuff in the ring, we usually don't have a problem with. We're either scared they're going to hurt themselves, or it's inventive and fun. Going into the rest of the card, there's some hurting yourself that's pretty bad. But
We'll talk about that.
What we have a problem with is that there's no follow-up and no support to it. So it really just becomes work rate wrestling, which, you know, can hold on to some hardcore fans, and those are the people watching an Honor Club like us, but it won't give you that next level of like showcase to anybody. And 0 Hour was a perfect example of this. You didn't know what to do with them. You weren't going to announce these matches because they didn't have anything to build to them. So just throw them there at the end of the night, like everything else in ROH. And it's really annoying because it's so good.
And the problem is there are so many people in Ring of Honor who are so good outside of their in-ring ability. Yeah. You know, I mean, they're so committed to their characters. They're so entertaining, so charismatic. They work well together, and they work off of each other both in and out of the ring, and they have the desire to push those things. And then there's Lee Johnson. Sorry. No, Lee Johnson, he does fine. I don't
save all that energy for when we get to the survival match.
Very sound wrestler. He definitely can wrestle in the ring.
He's a nice guy, I'm sure.
How would you know?
I'm just assuming he seems like a okay guy.
You're inferring a lot from not much. Anyway,
but it's just frustrating because we see the hard work that they do, and we see what they're capable of, and they only ever get to show a portion of what they can do, especially if you get to see these folks appear other places, like the Outrunners, who show up in other like indie promotions and things like that. It's just such it's very disheartening as a fan who also appreciates how much hard work that these people put into this profession. That takes a lot of hard work, and it's incredibly hard on their bodies and minds and their families and everything like that. And so it's disheartening to see them not get the things that they're earning.
Yeah, it is definitely unfortunate. So, okay. We're going to leave 0 Hour behind because now we're going to talk about the main card. If you thought 0 Hour talk was spicy.
No, that was white people spicy. I'm sorry, that was not spicy.
No, we're gonna get Mikey spicy in a little bit. So I'm gonna let you know right now. We're gonna talk about the main card, and this is where things might get a little spicy. So, if I want to preface by saying this by echoing what my other two co-hosts said, the in-ring work is always fantastic. It's just there's no follow-up, follow-through, or even leading into pay-per-views. The storylines are very non-existent, and the stories we did get kind of started to overstay their welcome a little bit leading into this. So if you are not too keen on some criticism about ROH, then that is okay. But please be respectful. And this also goes to the co-host too. So we're going to be respectful of each other's opinions. So, you know, there we go. All right.
Yeah. Respectful.
If you are a fan of Ring of Honor criticism, then, you know, you're in the right place.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I mean, not really because Jesse's not here, but still.
Oh, that's true. I'll make up for it.
No, just kidding.
You're going to hate fun tonight for us?
Yes.
Fine, I guess so. I'm gonna be depressed by the end of this, but we kick off the main card. So we kick off the main card like we always seem to do with ROH. They always put a lucha libre type of match at the beginning to get the crowd hot. And this time we had Commander taking on the Beast Mortos in a lucha libre style match. I want to say this: I had a fun time. I always love these two in the ring. Beast Mortos is excellent. So is Commander. And yeah, this was a fun back and forth for a little bit. But again, they threw this on the card just because. I was like, damn, I wish we had some more story to it. But JBL, this is what kicked off the show. So how did we feel? Thoughts, opinions, criticisms, like what you got?
I think all of us knew the kind of match we were getting when we came into this. And the selling did not disappoint at all. There was a lot of good back and forth. All of us were a little worried for Commander because his mask got ripped almost off the back of his head, and it was just kind of flopping there for most of it. He didn't have time to retie, so he powered through it. But that's kind of the big thing that Beast Mortos has, is that he's got this like latex mask that will not move. So that's always good for him in that respect. I enjoyed a lot of the spots. They were inventive, they were ridiculous, and they played off a couple of things where Commander couldn't get to his rope walk quick, and then he had to do it later in the match. Well paced. I guess expected, and therefore not really exciting in a weird way is what I had for it, because I knew this was going to open the night and it was going to be great. I don't know, Andrew. I don't know how you felt about this.
I mean, I feel like again, this could have been a main event on a weekly ring, Honor Club show. They could have done some other stuff. It's all about who's available and what they're allowed to do and all that kind of stuff. But I know Commander is a champion in AAA. So maybe instead of Mortos, we have someone who he could like defend the title against, even though he's not going to like lose the title on Ring of Honor. It would just bring something of a higher quality in terms of like risk reward kind of a thing. Yeah, stakes for a pay-per-view or a PLE or whatever we're getting in this. And so it just did feel kind of like okay, well, what can we kind of fill in these holes that we didn't have the foresight to actually think about filling. I will say, for me, Mortos outshined Commander in this match. They're both great. They both did a great job, but it was more of every time he did stuff, it was a reminder of how big he is, but how well he can still move and do the Lucha Libre style. Like it was just so impressive. So I will give them credit for that. But again, like you said, JVL, it was what I expected, so it wasn't anything that blew me out of the water.
Right.
I enjoyed this match, but I totally agree with you guys. Beast Mortos picks up the victory here, and that is how we open up Death Before Dishonor. And then, speaking of not having the foresight to do certain things, Andrew, yes.
What didn't he get something extra special for winning this match?
He got to take on a very special person on Collision.
Look, listen, I'm mad that I was kind of upset that Beast Mortos lost, but damn, honestly, they could have had Hologram take Commander's place. Like, now, obviously, Beast Mortos wouldn't have won, but damn, that match on Collision was actually really good. Like, I was like, damn.
That's the problem with Hologram so far, is that like the matches have been spectacular, but it just feels like a terrible, terrible gimmick, like Max Moon.
Well, and my biggest problem is that it's a consistent sign of what happens. We get people who can shine, look like stars, look like the top of the division in Ring of Honor, and we know when they show up on AEW, they're going to lose.
And it's not even like paying your dues or anything else. They just automatically are just going to have to lose because we need to make people lose.
Yeah. So that is, it's just frustrating, things like that, because you hear that and you're like, oh, hey, he's going to get a match against this new person on, an AEW. Well, we know that's the hot new thing because that's Tony's new toy. So we know he's going to lose. So there's less stakes in that,
Steak.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Toru steak.
So we're gonna move on from one match not having the foresight to do things to another match that didn't have the foresight to book a correct story. So next up, we have the ROH World Tag Team Championship match. This is our champions, the Undisputed Kingdom, which is Mike Bennett and Matt Taven, taking on the Conglomeration, being represented in this match by Kyle O'Reilly, and all the way from New Japan is Tomohiro Ishii.
The two of the most charismatic people in the Conglomeration at that point.
I will say I did get a kick like towards the end of this match when they tried to take out Ishii with the neck breaker and then he just no-sold it. You audibly hear Matt Tavis like, oh my God, he has no neck. Like, I thought that was funny. But again, this is my issue with this because I was just like, are they going to surprise me? No. Okay, well, it's fine. Again, the whole thing leading into this match was that the Undisputed Kingdom with these tag team championships literally for weeks are like, bro, we've kind of ran through all the tag teams in this division, so I guess we get to have the night off because no one's going to defend them. And which then on the
because they've barely touched any of the tag teams in the division. They've done nothing.
Which was really, really weird.
They faced the infantry that they almost lost against.
And the
But the
Righteous,
only
which they almost lost against.
Yes. The only reason they won against the Infantry at Supercard was because we had the Vanilla Gorilla Wardlow interfere on this match. And anyways, I'm gonna let
for the last whatever. So
yeah, yeah, that was weird.
And then the frustrating thing was on this, we had the same thing again.
We had distraction.
Yeah, we had more shenanigans, we had more distraction, which also was frustrating because it didn't make sense how the distraction came in. There were so many other options with who could have come down to create a distraction, where the people that came down to create this distraction could have been used somewhere else. And it's extra frustrating because now you've had your tag team champions for Ring of Honor win both their last, big championship matches by way of outside shenanigans when they were about to lose their titles. So it continues to just kind of make it a parody of itself.
It's being a chicken ass heel without the setup at the top to show that you actually have the skill to be worried about it. Like, they didn't win this by like Money in the Bank. They actually won a match to get these. They are skilled wrestlers, but they don't play it up as lazy. They're just playing it up as if they have a plan, which they don't.
Yeah.
And neither does ROH. It's kind of just a nice metaphor for ROH, basically.
No, once again, this tag team match pulled what they did at Supercard of Honor by having a distraction, which allowed the Undisputed Kingdom to retain their ROH Tag Team Championships. And now I'm just like, okay, what's next for these guys? Because we'll when we get to another match, yeah, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, well, anyways, we move on from this match. Title did not change hands here. So then we're going to do a little bit of a pick-me-up, which I'm glad that they put this next match in where it was. But first and foremost, these ladies, we're far enough in. I'm dropping my curse word for the evening. These ladies fucking killed it. Like, honestly, they
killed each other.
They killed each other, and Layla Hirsch killed her arm in the process. So we'll talk about that spot in a little bit. But we have a Texas death match. This is Diamante versus Layla Hirsch. And we kind of had a story going into this, which made me appreciate it just a tiny bit, because these ladies, right? Who knew? Telling a story leading into the pay-per-view, making the match awesome, that better. Who knew? But the story leading into this is that prior to this, Layla and Diamante faced each other. Layla got a win over Diamante. And then a couple weeks ago on ROH television in, a lights out match, Diamante got the win. So we are 1-1. So this is the blow off match to determine who ultimately wins this feud. Spoiler alert, Layla Hirsch ends up winning this match, but there are lots of good spots in this match that I love.
She won the match. I don't know if she won because she was broken by the end of it.
Let's just talk about that spot, and then we'll talk about some of the other stuff. Because in this finish, we didn't initially see what happened until they gave us the replay on the other side. But when Layla Hirsch, moonsaulted herself off the ladder onto the table where Diamante was duct taped to it, Layla Hirsch's arm got caught in the ladder in the rotation of the moonsault and just like... As she went through the table as well, I'm like, oh God, no. And she couldn't raise her arm. So that was very
getting up. Like, it was,
it was really, really tough. But let's talk about this match. JBL, I'll go to you first. What were some of your highlighted spots, and how did you feel about the match overall?
First off, props to the camera crew for not catching either of them gigging. Like, we knew they were doing it because we've seen this on times. But if first time watching a match like this, the magic was there. Like, it really came off as something was going on. I had to laugh a little at the setting up the 4 chairs to do the baseball drop kick that just would not set up that Diamante, so she threw one away and did 3. Because obviously one more did less damage than that. But either way, these two, not only was the violence amped, but the energy between them, the way that they would approach each other to go into their combinations and stuff was ridiculously well put together and purposeful. And then on top of that, you could tell, and I think, Andrew, you might agree with me, for the bigger spots up on the top rope, a couple of those other places, you could see them take care of each other like performers should in the best possible way that was not hinting at anything, but was definitely like, I'm going to catch your arm here. I'm going to put your head under. So just hold and roll. and they beautifully told a story with this. And I know, Mikey, that you went through extreme PTSD from your childhood watching some of the ending scenes in this. But
Well, okay, so first of all, the chancla was crazy, right? And then when Diamante pulled out the second chancla with the thumbtacks attached to it, and then just started slapping and digging it straight into Layla Hirsch's forehead, I'm like, no. There was a lot of good spots. Like, this was fantastic. Andrew, we're gonna go to you next. What were some other key moments you enjoyed about this match, and then just overall thoughts?
One of the things I really appreciated about this, minus the baseball slide chair incident, was the fact that they did a good job of when they needed to set up and they needed more time, that while they were setting up, if they passed their opponent, they'd hit them again with something. They'd do something to keep them down. Diamante taped Layla Hirsch to the ropes at one point.
Taping to the table.
Yeah. So there were a few different spots where it wasn't just, we all know what's happening so often, whether it's the big dives outside of the ring or whatever it is. We know stuff's being set up, but I appreciate it when they try to keep you invested in the story that's being told. So you're not just like, oh, your opponent's just going to lay there for 15 minutes while you set up this elaborate contraption to throw them through. I enjoyed the spot off of the apron when Layla Hirsch, like Samoan dropped Diamante through the barbed wire boards on top of the chairs. And I think that was another great example of where they took care of each other as much as they can in that situation. Because it was a brutal landing and it could have been a lot worse, but they worked really well together and as safe as you can in this extreme of a match. And I was super impressed with this. This was my match of the night just because of how hard they all went, how committed that they were, and the entertainment factor that we got from it.
This was definitely in my top 2 of the evening. Both of these ladies did an excellent job. Layla Hirsch won the feud, so I'm hoping we see good stuff for Diamante and Layla Hirsch next. All right then. I don't know what that was, but that was fun.
No idea what that is.
Nobody knows what it is.
This inner Andrew is like growling at us.
The fact that you looked down made it even more better. Is hilarious.
I got a funny story about that. I'll tell you later.
Ooh, okay. I need the tea afterwards. So, JV, Andrew, this was your match of the evening. We're going to go into, this one was definitely in the top 2, but we go from this match to my match of the evening for me personally. This is for the ROH Pure Championship. Wheeler Yuta defending his title against Tiger Style, Lee Moriarty. I'm a sucker for a good Pure Rules Championship match. And for me, this was my match of the night because I thought the in-ring action was very fun. Wheeler and Lee are definitely good mat-to-mat wrestlers. I love the fact that they're both kind of heel-ish, so it was a little more intense than your typical babyface versus heel. And overall, it's just really, really nice that... I'm sorry. I was like, someone's echoing and I don't know who it is. It sounds like a fly. I'm sorry, Tony Khan. I didn't mean to say things about you.
It sounds like Andrew's humming.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if it's humming. Anyways, besides the point. Back on track. Oh, now my camera's moving. No! Anyways, alrighty. Well, that was a fun break. Anyways, back to what I was saying. This was my match of the night. I thought both men did an amazing job. And then, of course, even our winner was surprised. But ultimately, this was the first match where we have a new champion, y'all. Because Lee Moriarty, with 8 seconds remaining in the time limit, was able to pin Wheeler Yuta with the assistance of the ropes. But we have a new ROH Pure champion, and I loved at the end of it that Wheeler put the championship belt onto Lee. And funny enough, Lee did not get pinned on the triple threat tag team match on Collision because Lee technically had the match won, but then Wheeler came in and stole the win from Lee, which, I appreciated. Also, we'll talk about it because Lee Moriarty's partner was not Shane Taylor, and we will discuss as to why that was when we get to a certain match. But Andrew, I'm going to come to you first. Pure Championship match. We have a new champion. How do we feel about the match? And what are your thoughts on Lee being our new ROH Pure Champ?
I thought this match was a lot of fun. Like you, I really enjoy the Pure rules. There's a few other, similar styles and other promotions that I enjoy because it gives us a different look to what we can see in a wrestling match. It brings something interesting. It is nice to have secondary titles that are not just the secondary title because they're not the world title. Like, there's often like there's this title and this title and this, and what do those actually mean other than just having a different name? So it's nice when you have, like tag team titles, pure titles, things like that, where it's a different style of wrestling. And I really enjoy that. I grew up, one of my favorite wrestlers was Dean Malenko, and so that style of wrestling, and obviously growing up watching people like Bret Hart and all that kind of stuff, just like really skilled grappling wrestlers. So learning the Pure division, I've been a big fan of it. I think Wheeler Yuta does a great job. I think Lee Moriarty does a great job. There's a few other people I think that could really excel in this division. This match itself was great. They both, it was great because they really had the time, because they almost went to the time limit to really build on the things that build tension in this division. They both ran out of their rope breaks. They both got their warning for a closed fist punch. You could see them trying to like outthink each other, as well as outwork each other. I was surprised. I thought they were going to go all the way to the end and we were going to get a judge's decision to just really build up that like suspense as to who was going to win. But I like that it went like almost right to the buzzer and Lee Moriarty picked up the win. I think, and I'm hoping that this is the case, and it's nothing against Wheeler Yuta. I'm hoping that what this means is that this was done because Wheeler Yuta is going to be spending more time on AEW with Blackpool Combat Club and all their things that they're doing. And they moved it onto Lee Moriarty because Lee Moriarty is more often seen in Ring of Honor. And so maybe that gives us another person, because I could see Lee Moriarty in the Pure division like Kyle Fletcher was in the TV division. And that this is one of the few things that's given me hope for what we're going to get after this card, as to the fact that we could see some actual development. So now it's just a matter of if they, take the opportunities there.
Well, especially if they're going to stay in one place and record a bunch of episodes, you can put a Pure division right there to be highlighted the entire time. Although I don't know if they have room for the Pure division as the words that come into the belt on the graphic. It was very strange to have like Pure. But I agree with you, Andrew, on this. I love the way that they pulled this off too, that we all were yelling at the end of it, like he's going to have to put him in the first one to get a submission is going to win this because you have no rope breaks, nothing else. And they get the submission and Moriarty smartly goes, well, I'm not going to get a rope break. It's not illegal for me to use. Flip Yuta and pin him. I haven't seen a pin in a Pure Rules match in quite a while. So brilliant picking that way as well. Lee is going to take it to different places that you probably can't do with Yuta, even in heelish status, which is great. And my hope is, even if they want to open this up, make the Pure division like we're going to bring in the guest star from AEW or from GCW or from whatever else it is to come in and do this. Get every technical. Hell, half the people competing on Bloodsport should be competing for this title and going after it that way. And having that relationship open up, yes, it's tough because you still have the other things going on, but have that be an open forbidden door title that can be defended anywhere. Now the Pure division is Pure Wrestling, just sponsored by ROH, which would be perfect.
I think so too. Honestly, I would love to see the ROH Pure Championship kind of take the same approach as the International Championship on AEW, where Lee will take this to different companies and do Pure stuff. I would love to see him fight other folks from other companies, take it to like Progress, to Mexico, like
New Japan.
New Japan, New Japan would slap so much. Let's do a champion versus champion. Lee Moriarty versus Gabe Kidd. Give it to me now. Like, honestly. Or even Lee versus Zach would be very fun too.
Oh yeah. Phenomenal.
Yeah, but if Zach won it, he would never let it go.
Here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that Zach wins the G1 this year because I think it's time for him to win. But I don't know. Gabe Kidd is kind of crushing it, and so is Takeshita. But that's for another conversation. Again, we got our first title exchange in the pay-per-view. Super happy for Lee. He totally deserves it, and we shall see what the future lies. So we go from one championship changing hands to another.
Spoiler.
Well, I mean, let's just get this out of the way. Burying the lead here. So here's the thing. I wanted to put this match in my top 2 of the pay-per-view, and it was almost there. What took it out of there for me was the fact that we had a repeat spot of what happened at Supercard of Honor, in which Billy Starkz faked like her neck hurting, being injured and whatnot, and trying to pull one over on Red, but it backfired, and Red Velvet ultimately capitalizes to win and become our new ROH Women's World TV Championship. I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit before I turn it over to my co-host to talk about the match itself. But, Red has been doing good. Again, the story leading into this was both Billy and Athena were tied together with their respective feuds with Red Velvet for the Women's World TV Championship, and then Queen Aminata, who was going after the Women's World Championship. So this is the longest story that we've had built going into this, but it started to overstay its welcome as we were getting into it because we kept running into the same things over and over again in terms of how promos were delivered. We basically told the same thing like 4 different times over the course of like 4 weeks. So regardless of that, at least we had a story, but it kind of fizzled by the end. I don't like when wrestlers fake injuries to pull out wins here. I never have, because those kinds of moments take me out of the match a little bit, because then I start wondering, oh my gosh, are they actually hurt? Because as we've seen, AEW and ROH has a multitude of people out on injury because of crazy things like this. And I got worried and I hated it. And then when come to find out Billy wasn't actually hurt, she's pulling the same thing that she did. It backfired. She lost her championship. I was so close to putting this in my top, but because we got a repeat spot that happened at Supercard here, I was like, well, no, there we go. Andrew, I'm going to come to you first. Billy Starkz is no longer our Women's World Television champ. Red Velvet is. How do we feel about the match, the moment that led to the ending, and your overall thoughts about what could happen next?
I mean, the match itself was good. I enjoyed it. I got what I expected from these two. It's kind of a bummer that we got the same spot with the neck thing, especially because it was frustrating the first time, and it's sad because the last 2 big Billy matches we had, I felt like, I at least felt this way. They were primed to be one of my favorite matches of the night, and then we got these neck spots. So to have those back to back in her big, title matches was kind of frustrating. I don't mind that Red Velvet won. It's cool for her. Like, congratulations to her. It seems like they're going to use this in some story way with Billy and Athena and what we're going to get going forward. So who knows? Maybe we'll get a change up of story. I hope we don't get a return to what we got before Billy and Athena faced each other as far as the same stuff. I don't mind if we build to a fracture between the two of them, because it could give us something new. I'm interested to see where they're going to go with Red Velvet as the champion. Do we see Billy Starkz try to get her title back to kind of prove that she deserves it back? I think it opens up Red Velvet for some interesting title defenses. I'd love if, now that she's beaten Billy and she's not chasing her, that we could get Red Velvet to start, like I said, with Lee Moriarty, doing the Kyle Fletcher approach. taking challengers every week or every other week. We get to see that TV title being defended, and we get to see her in action, really putting this title that, it's the television title. If it's going to be on a weekly, if a title is going to be on a weekly show, it should be a TV title. So, I'm hoping that that's what we're going to get, because we can have some new angles with Red Velvet. But I'm again in one of those positions where I think both the people involved, and really all four of the people involved, are great. I think they're going to be phenomenal pillars in the women's divisions, no matter where they're at. But I don't have a lot of faith that things are going to be used to the full extent and the capabilities of the people involved going forward.
Yeah. JVL, thoughts on this match?
There's part of me that wants to say, like, this is trying to teach you the lesson, like, in storyline, teach Billy the lesson not to do what she did. And I just don't know if that I mean, if it was effective doing that, because you want her to still be a heel, and so has she learned, has she not? It wasn't a bad match, and the two can work together. It took so much wind out of the sails of what they had been doing that I just couldn't get behind it. And that, and the fact of the unsafeness of Red Velvet's hair, got me when I was watching it. Not because I had anything against the hairstyle or anything else. It just, the way, how long it was and where it wasn't a safe working environment. And so maybe took away from some stuff. But that's where I sat with it.
Right. And, I'll bring this up when we get to, our other women's championship match, because there was a way that Queen had her hair up that it was still long, but was kind of like not in the way of everything that got it. So again, congratulations to Red Velvet. I love that by the end of this, we have 3 black champions in ROH, which is fantastic. I love them all. But again, yeah, I agree with both of you. I really wanted to like this match, and for the most part, I did. I just don't like the ending, and then them getting caught up. And then there was a brief stint of the match too, where we weren't sure if Billy conked herself, because she kind of looked out of it for a little bit of it towards the end. I forgot to put the picture in, and Jesse's not here, but just for, S and G's, I would have shown the picture of Billy crying. But man, Billy has held that title for 162 days, I believe. So something like that, but good job on her. I'm excited to see where we go with Red Velvet. All right. So there's no easy way to go, to what's about to go down next. I'm just, all right. So again, Red Velvet wins, but okay. So let me set this up, and then we'll talk about this. So we literally get this match announced the day of Death Before Dishonor. And I'm just going to explain the story of how we got here, because I'm still confused as to what is happening behind the scenes. So we got a ROH World 6-Man Tag Team Championship Eliminator match. So the winning team would go on to Battle of the Belts after Collision on this past Saturday and fight the Undisputed Kingdom to become the new ROH 6-Man Tag Team Championships. I was so confused when we got this announcement, because originally I thought we had unified all the trios championships in the AEW ROH umbrella. And prior to this, Bullet Club Gold held those titles. And then they were stripped of said titles because Jay White could not compete with the Bang Bang Gang. But then we stripped them of the titles, and then we allowed the Bang Bang Gang a chance to win those titles back, originally against the Patriarchy. Then title match comes, and then they're just for the AEW Trios Championships. And so I'm like, okay, so they retired the ROH ones. You know what? It's unfortunate, but you know what? There's not a lot of trios right now in ROH, so why, good to not waste belts and things. Then they announced this match, and then I'm like, excuse me? Like, what? So you unified the titles. You stripped the Bang Bang Gang of all the titles. You just have them you just had a match to compete for AEW's trios titles, and then you bring back the ROH 6-Man Tag Team Championships back to ROH. What? I mean, I'm just going to get this out the way. spoiler alert, Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs win this match because Texas, y'all. And then Battle of the Belts happened.
Woo! My moment of 2024.
Yeah, seriously, I felt that inside of me, how happy I was.
I died a little,
and I just pooped it out afterwards.
I died a little bit watching this match because Dark Order just... We don't use Dark Order properly, and it makes me mad, you guys. Like, this really took me out of it. I was like, damn, man. But this was not my least favorite match of the evening. We're going to talk about that match next. But
we could have had, like, we don't have a lot, but, you know, there's the Dark Order for one thing that have been consistently now showing up on Ring of Honor. There's the Cage of Agony now that's kind of returned to Ring of Honor. We've got the Iron Savages that often compete as a trios. I mean, I'd even take Top Flight, you know, with Action and Andretti. They show up quite a bit on Ring of Honor as a trios. You know, we've got some trios that could have been competing for the Ring of Honor 6-man championship that are regularly on Ring of Honor and that win on Ring of Honor. They, even if they show up in AEW, they generally lose, but they're treated more as Ring of Honor wrestlers that could have been involved in this whole championship title thing. And you had time since, I guess, separating the titles and the Bang Bang Gang getting stripped of all of the titles or whatever happened, that you could have laid the groundwork for saying, okay, they're going to wrestle for the AEW ones. We're now going to have some kind of triple threat or tournament or whatever to crown.
Well, you know, have continuity or something to drive us into want to see this. Like,
yeah. Hell, if you would have had some kind of tournament or some kind of story build-up, you could have put Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs in there to actually build up the reason why we're seeing them, other than the fact that they're from the place that you're going to be in. Like, it was so...
Look, I will say this. Obviously, we want to try to keep ROH and AEW separate, but literally have a small tournament where you'll have some trios in ROH, trios in AEW, and then, you know, on AEW side of the bracket, ROH side of the bracket, and then go from it there. Because let's be honest, you threw Dustin and the Von Erichs on here. Dustin is coming over from AEW to be in ROH because we're going to be in Texas for the next like 4 or 5 weeks of these Collision and ROH tapings. So I don't blame the talent involved in this. They're just thrown into these matches, right? So I blame the booking decisions for this, and it makes me mad. But again, as I said, Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs win this match. They go to Battle of the Belts on Saturday. They beat what made me more mad is they beat the Undisputed Kingdom clean, despite some trying to do some interference. But they're not going to hold on to these belts for long, because once we leave Texas, I'm pretty sure they're going to the Undisputed Kingdom.
Yeah. There's so many options here. The Von Erichs, if you wanted to do this, have them win the tag team titles. Like, there's so many things about this being thrown together that just make it like it was a layer cake of bad ideas and bad choices. This
should have been on the pre-show.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if I'm going to be completely honest, we could have. So this is how I would have done it. I love me some Top Flight, but they didn't need to be on here. Do the Outrunners versus the Infantry. Swap that for this match and have the Infantry and Outrunners versus each other. And I don't know, do like winner goes to face the Undisputed Kingdom for the tag titles or something, right? And have this be on the pre-show. But no, because we're in Texas, we have to make sure that the Von Erichs are on your main card, and Dustin's here for the ride.
I mean, speaking of matches that we could have had, the Outrunners lost their match. Why was it not the Outrunners versus MXM Connection?
Honestly, that would have been a really great match. Be like, this is a thrown together number one contenders match. Have MXM win. Honestly, MXM versus Undisputed Kingdom, that would be hilarious. Like,
MXM versus the Dark Order would be ridiculous.
Yes, up here. See, again, Tony Khan, you can hire us for like a couple weeks, a month, 2 months, and we'll get ROH ship shape. I promise you. But again, Dustin and the Von Erichs win. They go to Battle of the Belts. They are your new ROH World 6-Man Tag Team Champions for like 4 weeks until we inevitably give them to the Undisputed Kingdom. Woo!
You were almost right there. You almost called it the AEW ROH 6-man tag team championships.
Which it basically is going to be. Yeah.
They don't know what to do. The trios division across both brands right now is like, they don't know how to book them. It's ridiculous. Okay. So I'm just not even going to do a lead in for this. I'm just going to sit here for a little bit. I'm going to contemplate life. I'm going to fix my camera. This was not needed. I'm going to be honest with you. This was my least favorite match of the whole entire night. Despite my problems with what we got beforehand, it's whatever. This match was like watching paint dry. Because in my opinion, and I said this when we were watching this, Atlantis can stay, Leo can stay, take out the other 4 people. Well, and Brian Cage can stay too. Take out Lee Johnson, Johnny TV, and Shane Taylor, and give me some opponents that match the speed and the craziness of Brian, Atlantis, and Leo. Because this whole match was everybody fighting each other except fighting Atlantis Jr. because nobody outside of Leo Rush can keep up with the Lucha Libre style that Atlantis Jr. has. This was boring to watch. And then on top of that, too, this is the match that Shane Taylor got hurt in, and that's why he didn't team with Lee Moriarty on Collision, because he got hurt in this match somehow.
Did he slip on his own sweat from his entrance? Like, I don't know.
I don't know, but I did not like this match. Spoiler alert, Atlantis Jr. retains his championship, but I was so bored. Yeah,
this you could have literally picked Atlantis Jr. won. So none of these other people were winning. You could have picked pretty much any of these other people. It could have been Atlantis Jr. versus Brian Cage for this title. Atlantis Jr. versus Leo Rush for the title. Hell, Atlantis Jr. versus Johnny TV for the title. You could have had that because then it would at least give the 2 competitors a chance to focus on how they complement each other and tell a cohesive story instead of this crazy, let's just throw everyone in there. They have their moment. And like you said, it was everybody else wrestling each other, getting an elimination. Then the next person came in who was going to get an elimination until eventually got to the end, and then Atlantis Jr. won.
Well, it was a multi-man match where it was singles matches all the way through.
Yep.
There wasn't a lot of multiple people in them, and I know it's hard to do so, but we've seen it done before where you can have good matches with multiple people in the match. And yes, the spot with Shane Taylor threatening to do a tope over the top was funny. And yes, the tope after tope after tope after tope, kind of expected in one of these matches. Last time it wasn't topes from everybody else, but Dalton Castle throwing people out of the ring and getting thrown out of the ring. You had good ideas, you just tried to do them all, and it didn't work.
Hell, we could have just had a rematch because Lord knows you're not going to give the title back to Kyle Fletcher now. But we could have had the rematch between Kyle and Atlantis Jr. here one-on-one because, most people don't watch CMLL. But for those of us that do, literally Kyle said that I want my rematch. And, we had this match on your grounds. We're going to get a rematch on my grounds. So like AEW ROH television never manifested it because Kyle Fletcher is on rampage.
Even though he was there and he interfered in another match.
Oh my gosh, we'll talk about that because I was like, let's just talk about it. Kyle Fletcher interfered in the wrong match. I was like, what?
Yeah, he could have interfered in this match. He has 2 big reasons, Lee Johnson and Atlantis Jr., 2 people he's had issues with in the past. And the biggest problem with this was I was not impressed by Atlantis Jr. because
sad.
I did not get to see anything from him, and he won a match where he didn't beat most of the people.
Nope.
And this is the issue I have with a lot of Ring of Honor stuff is I don't want to have to watch AEW to follow Ring of Honor. I don't want to have to now watch CMLL to follow Ring of Honor. Like, if you're going to crown someone from CMLL as the Ring of Honor champion, bring them over, even if it's only for a few matches. Give me an idea of why I should be excited to see this person wrestle. And I have nothing against him, but so far all I've seen from him is this match and his match against Serpentico, which when I came out of that match was being so impressed with how good Serpentico looked in that match.
which is unfortunate because, again, you don't have to watch CMLL because check out the reviews now. Just kidding. Shameless plug. But I get it. I get it.
Perform.
No, I get you, because you shouldn't have to watch these other promotions. Again, I think that, hell, if you wanted to make this an international invitational, like survival of the fittest, have Atlantis, Leo, Brian Cage, pick up a couple other guys from CMLL. Shoot, you could. Like, you could bring on some other luchadors, like from the independents, to come out here. Honestly, we could have done without Commander and Beast Mortos. Put them in this match. That would have been crazy. And, everybody flying all over the place. I'm just saying, this was my least favorite match. And it's not fair to Atlantis Jr. because he is that good. Again, because Ring of Honor and AEW doesn't know how to do Lucha Libre style matches correctly for Western audiences. And they kind of nerf the luchadors when they come in from CMLL too. I was so mad at this. Again, Atlantis Jr. wins. He is going to continue to do so. Kyle Fletcher could have had a rematch. I'm letting that go because I don't think we're going to, because Kyle Fletcher is now teaming up with Roosh and they're having fatal 4-way matches on Rampage now.
Hooray! Well, it's only because Takesha's killing it over the G1. So
I know Takesha is out here killing the G1 climax and like doing awesome, but that's neither here nor there. Any other thoughts about this match before we move on?
I was very upset because I had started, as you said, when he fought Serpentico, I was starting to come around a little bit to Atlantis, and he had come into that match with the stink of Jericho on him from AEW. So like, this is just driving him back down again to be like, I just don't want to watch. There's nothing enticing me to.
Again, really unfortunate. Not Atlantis' fault, but this match was not needed. So we move on from this match. We get into our semi-main event for the ROH Women's World Championship. We have Athena defending her title against Team Juicy herself, Queen Aminata. I like this match. I wish there was a little bit more to it. And I figured that Athena wasn't losing here because they're going to let Athena hold this until she beats Samoa Joe's record for having the longest single titles championship reign, which Athena just needs to hold on to this until September 13th, I believe it was. 15th. And then she will be 15th, and then she will be the longest reigning champion ever in the history of ROH, which is fantastic. But my biggest worry, well deserved. But my biggest worry now is that she beat Queen. Also, a side note, we got to figure out what we're doing with wrestlers and earrings, because for the last couple of weeks on ROH, I'm seeing people bleed from the ears where these piercings are. I'm just like, I don't want to tell wrestlers what to do, but we got to figure out something about these, because I'm always watching bleeding ears and craziness. We saw it here. Diamante in the Lights Out match had the gauge rip out. Like, me and Andrew saw Jordan Grace's wrestle when the whole thing ripped out her earlobe.
Every time Rhea Ripley wrestles and her left gauge pops out.
Or like she's bleeding because her nose ring got pulled out. Like, it was ridiculous. Again, I like this match. I just wish there was a little bit more to it. And again, we had shenanigans happen because Billy comes out towards the end. Red comes out towards the end. But unfortunately, it does not work in Queen's favor because Lexi helps Athena win by hitting her with the title, which allows her to win.
Microphone.
Sorry. It's
Lexi's weapon of choice.
Yes. Shout out to Lexi, though. I love her. Also, shame on you, ROH, because we were having microphone problems with Lexi, and I did not appreciate it. I was like, how dare you do that to her? But also, shout out to Lexi for doing the Are You Afraid of the Dark intro for Athena, which was fantastic. I love it. JBL, I'm going to come to you first. Again, I personally like this match, but I wish we had more from this. And I honestly don't know who's next for Athena, because she's beaten almost a bunch of top contenders in ROH and in AEW as well.
There was nothing wrong with the match itself or the interference, really. I mean, they had stuff back and forth. I think the problem we ran into mostly was the crowd was with them, but we were all dead. Like, it had been a long night already with the long 0 hour and that type of stuff. And it had been a long week. It was a Friday. We had gone to work, all that stuff. I just was tired by this thing. I mean, we were all just kind of like, I don't want to get through the rest of this card. Not because, again, we didn't enjoy the work in the ring. We're done. Nothing was holding our attention, not even this. And we got some fun stuff out of it, but it suffered from being where it was on the card and on the card it was on. Had they done this at Supercard, probably would have been better.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Even though I wanted more from this, I like this match. I hate to say this because it's not performer's fault, but I like this match a little bit more than Athena versus Shida at Supercard. And I feel like that was the same problem we talked about when we did Supercard too. Is that it was the semi-main event and it was a long Supercard of Honor too.
But it's also Athena's matches are becoming samey.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Well, and I
Andrew.
think the bigger issue is that the cards don't have sustainability throughout them. If we were getting, even if the cards were the same length that they were, if we had the buildup that had us with so much anticipation that we were looking forward to each match coming up, and even the surprise matches that they surprised us with things that we were genuinely surprised and excited to see, it would sustain us as we went along through the night. But we had so many kind of waves of a little bit of excitement. Okay, maybe this one will be the one, and then some lows. And you know, this coming after the 6-way survival match, it's just, once you get into this far into it, you just, the energy is just not there, even if it's something that's good. And you know, if I watched this by itself, it would be super entertaining. I would have a good time. It was fun. You know, they did a good enough job, but this wasn't saving the night for me. You know, I appreciate it when I look at everything, you know, a lot of the stuff that we complain about. This was continuing storytelling, character builds. People were doing what they are supposed to do in the world that has been created by Ring of Honor and the stories that we've been told up to this point. But yeah, it just suffered from all of the things that made it frustrating throughout the whole night, and really what's brought us to Death Before Dishonor.
Again, not the fault of the performers, but you know, just weird booking decisions and backstage weirdness is also not helping with this. And we'll talk about it when we give our final reviews too. But Athena retains. She just needs to hold this thing until September. And I'm really excited for her to break the record. If they don't let her break the record, I'm probably going to stop watching ROH. I'm going to be completely honest, because I'm like, how dare you? And then that also brings up the question too, because people are like, Athena should go to AEW. I'm like, why? She's going to, again, every time we get somebody new in the women's division in AEW, we put them in the title match for the first month they're there, and then they get lost in the shuffle. Look at what's happening. What happened with Deanna? Like,
I hate to put this out into the universe.
Knock on wood that it doesn't, but go for it.
So September 15th is a Sunday. So that means we'll get to see a Ring of Honor show on September 12th.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part of me that would not put it past them to take the title off of her then.
Well, and think about this one too. Also, that would have been filmed at least 2 weeks in advance in this group of tapings. So she's already lost it if that's the case.
Yeah. I will be right back. Continue talking.
Okay.
Oh, that's terrible, Andrew. Don't put that out there.
See, you know, I blame Andrew for when these things happen. I'm just kidding.
I agree, Mikey. She shouldn't go to AEW. Not at this point. There's nothing for her to do there that she'll be inserted into. That she's running the roost right now. Mm-hmm. She is the top of the mountain. What they need to do is send AEW women down here and make this the women's, you know, basically division. ROH becomes a women's fed.
Seriously,
because that would draw much better at this point.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Because again, so I'm gonna wait till Andrew comes back before we move on to our next match. But let's talk about the hypothetical here. So obviously, Athena has pretty much run the gamut through all the women that are available in ROH. Obviously, there are some that are still there that we have yet to see Athena fight against, but we know that there's not going to be a chance. Like, again, the only and correct me if I'm wrong, because this has been a 2-year title reign for Athena, so maybe my memory might be shoddy, but you know, I don't believe Athena has faced Abaddon, but you know, Abaddon unfortunately would not win as much as I want it to. I'm trying to think. She hasn't faced Rachel, but now she's on AEW, but kind of ROH. So I don't know anymore. I don't know. But you're absolutely right, JBL. There's a whole plethora of women that are not being used on AEW that could be moved over to Death Before Dishonor, and we can have some fun stuff. Like, I think Athena versus Thunder would be fantastic. Athena versus a Deanna would be fantastic, and do that rematch from, a couple months ago when Deanna came in, when they did cross promotional stuff. Hell, depending on what happens with Tony and Mariah, like, I don't know what you can do with them, but a dream match, Athena versus Tony, would kind of slap too, honestly.
Seriously.
Well, here's a crazy idea. I know it's supposed to be once somebody loses a championship challenge that they just go to the wasteland. But I don't know, have some former contenders work their way back up and challenge for the title again. We've got a bunch of them, so there's a few people that we could bring back. I mean, we haven't seen Nyla Rose in how long in Ring of Honor?
I would love for them to run it back with Nyla and Athena.
Billy's free right now. When is she coming back to actually, take care of this?
Yeah.
That's also true.
A new Marina Shafir, newly reborn, should be coming after this thing.
You know what? If they built it up correctly too, because now she's done with Diamante. If we wanted to do a short program, Layla versus Athena would be also fantastic too, because it's been a while since Athena and Layla squared up.
And remember, it was Athena who ended Layla's undefeated streak in Ring of Honor. So there's that option.
Rachel Ellering.
Lady Frost, if you wanted to. Like, there's even Athena versus Taya would be fantastic. Obviously, honestly, if they wanted to build it up too, I know she wouldn't win it, but let's do one more match between Athena and Willow, because now they're 1-1, because on the indies, Willow beat Athena. Athena beat Willow at Death Before Dishonor last year. And so now do one more to see who ultimately wins with 2-1 by the end of it, but they're not going to.
Willow's too big at this point to do that.
I know.
I can even see it'd be fun to throw. You want to see a survival of the fittest match? Have Athena sitting up in a queen's throne at the top of the stage, and everyone else in the women's division that has either won or lost is in a survival match to become her number one contender that comes up.
That would be fun.
Mercedes
Seriously.
Martinez.
Yes.
Give Diamante a shot, because Diamante, Mercedes didn't do it. Diamante should. I mean, both Diamante's mentor and partner have both lost multiple times to her.
Right. Or even, I would love to see Athena versus Kiara again, because that was a fun little program between the two that culminated in that Chicago street fight.
There's, the biggest problem with everything that we're bringing up, it requires storytelling.
Yep. Again, Tony Khan, ROH, let us book this for you for a little bit. We got ideas that we promise they're kind of good. Anyways, we're going to move on from this, because now we get into our main event of the evening.
That freaking picture.
I was going to say, man,
the entire time.
I cannot take Mark Briscoe seriously. I love his crazy energy. And it's, again, in ring, I love this match until we got the shenanigans. I was just like, this was actually a fun, solid match. But again, the same problem that we talked about in the previous match. It was almost 9 o'clock midnight for those of us respectively in the time zones. It was hella late. We were going on hour 5 at this point, and I was just tired. And I was just like, I like this match. But again, there is some controversy in the fact that who knows if Roddy was going to be in this position had Dalton not got hurt in that number one contenders match against Roddy. If Dalton would have been here facing Mark Briscoe. In the long run, I'm kind of glad Dalton is not in here, because I don't want him to lose to Briscoe. I want him to win this title at some point. Again, I thought this was a fun main event. Mark is great. Roddy is always solid in the ring. But again, I was tired, and I inevitably knew that they were not going to let Mark Briscoe lose this thing. And it was kind of unfortunate, because Mark doesn't show up on ROH.
Like every other champion.
God.
They're there for a week. They come back at pay-per-view time, and then they're used in losing battles, or in Mark's case, winning the night before up in AEW.
Anyways,
But
Andrew,
in
I'm gonna
Mark's
come to you
case, it's
first.
also wrestling and multi-man tag matches. Or
That part too. Oh my gosh. Anyways, Andrew, our main event, Briscoe walks out of Death Before Dishonor as the champion. What do we do now?
the same thing that they've been doing is really what's going to happen. My only hope from this was that Roderick Strong was going to win, and they were going to bring the Undisputed Kingdom over to Ring of Honor because they have not been doing anything great with them in AEW, and just let them, if you watch TNA, pull a system and just dominate the company. Like, let them win the 6-man titles too, and then you just have them hold 3 of the major championships in Ring of Honor, and they just sit on them and they use them to increase their control over Ring of Honor. And then you've got that going there. You've got Athena already controlling the women's division. There's something that you can build off of that. But instead, we now have, Undisputed Kingdom holding the tag titles that they're not going to really do much with. We've got Mark Briscoe holding the world title that he's not going to do much with. We've got this 6-man championship, champions that they're going to have them while they're hot in Texas. Credit to Dustin for getting to hold a title before he's getting to the end of his career here. But we know they're going to lose it probably to some people who are not going to do much with it on Ring of Honor. So, this match did not stand out to me in any specific way that was super exciting. It was the end of the night. It didn't give me any high hopes for going forward. So this just kind of ended the night with a cool. All right, well, it's over. That happened.
Yep. Mark Briscoe bleeding like Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13. Always good to see that, and him nearly dying. This was a bog standard Roddy Strong match. You got what you got out of it. Really good work rate. Cardio was out off the bat and a lot of good flippy dippy. Mark got his redneck kung fu in, and then there was Kyle Fletcher and Dom Fallis and weird things going on with that, and just interruptions that didn't make any sense. And then the other, they had the configuration, Kyle O'Reilly and Ishii. It just was just a mess. And I think it was, again, trying to draw life into this, which the video package was great because you forget like the Briscoes were at Roddy's wedding and all that great stuff. But the whole night took too long. This wasn't going to be anything spectacular. It was going to be good, but not worthwhile. I couldn't rate it.
The biggest problem with a lot of the run-ins and the other things that we had going on was it constantly felt like there were little teasers of, oh, well, hey, here's a promo for basically come watch our other stuff. Like, everything was like that. The 6-man titles were, come watch them win it on AEW. This was, hey, you want to see what's going on with why Mark Briscoe and, Kyle O'Reilly and Ishii and all these people are fighting these other people? Well, come watch it over here. Like, it was basically giving us tidbits of stories to go watch it somewhere else.
Come see the Beast Mortos lose to Hologram.
I mean, it was a long night to begin with. Again, I thought the match was a lot of fun. Roddy always puts on good matches. He's really good in the ring, and that's never a question for me. It's just really hard for me because in-ring is only one aspect when I look at the whole entire match on a pay-per-view. The other aspects are story and, build up and engagement leading into this and, potentially what we might get afterwards. There was a lot of components missing from this, but again, we'll talk about that in a hot second when we go over final ratings. But Mark Briscoe is still your ROH World Champion. Don't know who's next for him because at this point we have, August, September, October, November. We literally probably have 5 months until final battle. I'm not saying that ROH needs to do one more pay-per-view, but that is a long gap between pay-per-views. Because at least it makes sense between April and July between Supercard and Death Before Dishonor. But you have 5 months to figure out what we do next. And this is kind of weird and ridiculous. But, boys, we've reached the end of our Death Before Dishonor review. Let's do final ratings and final thoughts before we sign off for the evening. And then I will make my announcement of who made a return to wrestling as well as debuting at the same time on ROH, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But I am going to go last because I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit. So I'm going to go with Andrew first. Andrew, what is your empanada rating for this? What were the pros? What were the cons? Give me your thoughts. Like, just be honest.
I will say I wanted to give this like a 6.5 or a 7. Mostly because I appreciate so many of the people involved. But my honest review of this was a 5.5. Is the best that I could give it. It missed the spot on so many options that they had. From the beginning, leading us up to Death Before Dishonor, every week felt like, all right, they're running out of time. What are we going to get? What are we going to get? And then it got to the day of, and it was still, what are we going to get? This was, nothing was spectacular. I will give you that the Layla Hirsch Diamante match was really good and really fun, and I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the pure championship match. But those two against the 14 matches or whatever we got on this, just could not do the heavy lifting that they needed to for everything else that was involved. And the biggest frustration for me is going out of this, I don't see any difference for the future.
I'm with you on that, Andrew. There's not a lot of excitement for me. And it's sad to say, I've been excited about ROH for quite a long time. There have been a lot of great stuff coming out of it, and now I just feel like it's a chore to try to slog through this stuff. And then I get to see good stuff every once in a while, but it's not fun. Except for ones like bright spots like Layla Hirsch and Diamante and all that good stuff. This is a bog standard, like it's an ROH Honor Club 5 for me. It was what it was. They went all out. There were great things about it, but it just, And to top it off, like the expectation of what we're going to get and like feel about it. Look at the photo you have right there, Mikey. Look who's on the right-hand side or the left-hand side of the photo. People that were not involved in any aspect in this event, promoting the event. Like,
I know they didn't update it it made me so mad. I was like, y'all can't be going wishy-washy with this.
No.
I feel you. Okay, so now it's my turn, and I'm going to take a little bit of a long time. So I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit, and I'm going to give a little bit of preference before I give my final rating. So earlier today, and I'm not going to talk about necessarily everything that was said, but me and JVO had a text message exchange, in terms of who was going to be moderating this whole thing and whatnot. So when we got to talking, I told him that I would, and I had my reasons, and I explained my reasons, and I'm going to share them right now. The short version,
verbatim? I've got them right here. I can do a dramatic reading.
No, don't do a dramatic reading because we don't need to extend this longer than it has to. But to summarize my feelings with this during the actual pay-per-view, because for me, and I think the rest of the boys here would probably say this, so it's not just me tooting my own horn, but between the 9 of us, I tend to be the more optimistic, cautiously optimistic when it comes to all these things in wrestling. I have yet to be burned super bad yet when it comes to wrestling, but we're slowly getting there, and I don't like that. And, we joke around, be like, Mikey needs to be jaded for a little bit, but we're getting close to it, and I don't know how I feel about that. But I felt bad wanting to talk about the positive things about ROH in this pay-per-view because the general consensus was by the end of it, when we were done watching it, the general consensus, everybody thought it was mid and it was okay. And I had my critiques of it, but I enjoyed it as what it was. So initially I was like, I'm not going to speak too much on it because I don't want to cause any conflict. Obviously that didn't happen because I gave my 2 cents anyways. But with all that being said, when I grade these pay-per-views, I have to go beyond the in-ring work because ROH always produces 9 out of 10 times really good in-ring work because all the workers here are fantastic. We love a lot of these performers. But the other half of it is, how did you build to this pay-per-view? What were the stories going into this? What are You know, what is at stake here? Where can we see where we might possibly go down the line now that we're done with this pay-per-view? You know, if I was just grading on what I saw in front of me, this would have been an easy 6.5, 7, kind of similar to Andrew. But my problem is that because the only 3 stories that you really had going into this match were all the women's championships, but with Athena and Billy and Queen and Red, that started to fizzle out and it started to get stale because we were doing these really weird segments either backstage, in the ring, and it was a disconjointed mess. Then you have the rest of the matches that were thrown together just for the hell of it. Because it's like, okay, we got to have all the championship matches on here, so let's do this. And execution-wise, you pulled the same tricks as Supercard of Honor for some of these, and it did not help. I don't like when we start to repeat tropes and things like that. I'm not dumb. Don't insult my intelligence. With that being said, because of the lack of stories, the lack of investment that ROH gave to these matches that we saw in front of us, and being just way too long, you can trim some of these matches. They don't need to be here. Have it like a good 3-4 hour pay-per-view, and we'll call it a day. I have to give Death Before Dishonor a 5 out of 10 for me, because I can't keep giving high grades just based on in-ring workability alone, because this is professional wrestling entertainment. The wrestling's good, but your entertainment aspects are not there or non-existent with storytelling, engagement, and investment. There's no setup, there's no payoff. And again, I can't believe I'm actually saying this. Someone's going to strike me down, but when I'm looking at my developmental brands that we watch either for the reviews or on our own, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and Andrew and JBL are probably going to hit me afterwards, but despite my issues with some of the booking choices, NXT's kind of doing a better job than ROH, which is crazy to say. Like,
NXT's got leadership. NXT's got an actual people in place to book it.
Well, and again, I try not to compare pay-per-views because they're for different audiences, but unless I need to see how the rest of 2024 goes. But as of right now, NXT is my number 1 spot for favorite pay-per-view with Heatwave. And I thought Heatwave was a lot better than this because we had stories going into it. Like, it's not that hard. But I'm off my soapbox now. I apologize, but that's how I feel. I want ROH to succeed. I was like, I want ROH to succeed, but I need the people in charge to stop treating it like an afterthought. Like, for reals. It's not that hard. I apologize for my rant.
No need to apologize. Very on point there, Mikey.
Yep.
So I want to see ROH succeed because there are so many talented people there that we love and support here. Hell, we got to interview and talk to a lot of them when we were in New Jersey. Like, they're cool, and we want to see things for them. Obviously, we have a long time before Final Battle, which is probably going to be in December, unless ROH throws another pay-per-view between that point. But I don't know. We're going to see how it goes for the next couple weeks, because I'm at the point where if it's become too much of a chore for us to watch ROH, I realistically don't think that we could probably figure out something else to do. Though that would require, if we decide to watch something else, we need to convince Jesse to tag along with us when it comes to that.
Give me 10 minutes.
That would be fantastic. But before we, sign off for the evening, just one piece of breaking news. ROH had like 8 hours worth of taping, I believe, either Sunday or Saturday, one of those two. So the chunk full of episodes. But we had a return of an AEW folk who looks to be going to be in Ring of Honor for a little bit, because we had the return and the re-debut of the Spanish god himself, Sammy Guevara.
And his very tight trunks.
He was in the suit from the picture, so who knows how long he's going to be there. But honestly, AEW doesn't know what to do with Sammy either. So if we want to stick Sammy in ROH for a little bit, like, I'm not mad. Keep him there because, despite his backstage shenanigans, I do think Sammy Guevara is very talented, and I would love to see him mix it up in ROH. It's just a matter of how we utilize him.
There's your person that can go with Atlantis for the TV title.
Seriously. That'd be so good. But anyways, that's going to be it for this episode of Grapple Gurus. I would say tune in to next week, but Grapple Gurus will be back tomorrow, mañana, because, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I will be here for the review, but I will not be leading us. I'm going to be running 1 and 2s, and I'm going to be a participant because tomorrow, Andrew is going to lead myself and the professor as we go over GCW Bloodsport.
As long as he's not on fire.
Yes. Well, luckily things are looking better than they have been. So let's hope it stays that way.
Can you just stop sending your smoke our way? It's getting into my mountains here, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, I'll try to get on that for you.
Thank you so much.
For reals, we will try to do our best here in California. But thank you for tuning into this episode of Grapple Gurus. We love having you here, even if it was just us venting about our frustrations. But there were some small highlights in here for sure.
Yeah,
but
the Andrew ohm sound was great.
Your microphone is ridiculous, Andrew. I love it so much. But that is going to be it for us tonight. Tune in tomorrow for the GCW Bloodsport review. And then to give you an upcoming look, tune in next Monday as Professor Minnie and I will be covering SummerSlam, which is also happening this weekend.
Slumber Slam.
It's going to be crazy. But from all of us here at BC WrestlePod, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay Bi-Conic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We will catch you tomorrow for the Bloodsport review. But until then, sayonara, adios, talk to you later, and do better, ROH.